Game day.
What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? You're back on another episode of Chiefs Focus First and 10 Live with JP, Caleb, and Quentin. What's up, guys?
Doing pretty good. How are you guys doing?
Not bad.
Doing all right.
Not bad. Got a few crazy things to talk about. I mean, nothing too crazy, but some stuff's going around. I'd like to bring this up really quick, just because I can. It took Nate Taylor to come out today to say what we've been saying for about a month now, if not a little longer, about Frank Clark and Chris Jones being extended, Chiefs working on it. This is stuff we've been talking about for over a month. Apparently it does take a check mark. I don't know what else to say. Even though we basically have the same one he has. It's either a legacy or you're a Twitter Blue member. So it may or may not be notable. But regardless, it's really strange to me that people aren't listening yet. Hopefully they will soon. But with that being said, Frank Clark and Chris Jones are getting, sounds like they're going to get restructured and extended. Sounds like everything's going to work out really well for them and for the Chiefs for that matter. I'm pretty comfortable with it. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, so essentially what was put out there was that the Chiefs are working to extend Chris Jones and to work with Frank Clark. There was some information that was given out at the Combine. Brett Veach did a lot of media stuff, and he was going around, and he was asked about Frank Clark quite a bit. And that seemed to be the universal opinion about it was we're working on. He's one of those guys, and he's the easiest way to open up cap space without having to prorate anybody's salary, to just give him an extension because he's not going to play under this current contract. Sometimes I feel like I'm just repeating myself every time we do one of these shows because I feel like I've been saying this since November that Frank Clark and Chris Jones are not playing with the Chiefs next year underneath the current contract they have.
Well, yeah,
but,
I mean, that was a given. But
Yeah, it's going to happen. I mean, something's going to change. At the end of the day, we're going to see is that they want to be here. The Chiefs want them here. I'm pretty sure all parties can come to a team-friendly deal, and they're going to make money. I really believe they'll be able to figure that out. It worked with Chris Jones last time. It worked with Frank Clark this offseason because everyone was saying cut Frank Clark, trade Frank Clark, and it worked out what he was able to do, especially down the stretch.
And I don't even think that, it's necessarily just being a team-friendly deal per se. I just think it's that, being able to come together and work together just makes sense for, these people to come together and work together, like Frank Clark, for example. If he doesn't make an extension, then it's in the Chiefs' best interest to then cut him to save the $21 million in cap space. So it just makes sense if he wants to be on this team, then he needs to be able to come together and work out an extension so that way they can move some of his money, spread it out over a couple of years instead of all at once. So I wouldn't even call it necessarily a team-friendly deal. I would just say that this is just how business gets done this time of year, where you're trying to open up some money where you can without having to have any bad contracts on the books.
yeah, I mean, everybody knew that this was going to come down to to either him being cut or an extension. I think most people assumed that he was going to be cut. He's not. I mean, that wasn't what the Chiefs were planning on doing.
That's what a lot of people were saying, cut him. And it's like you don't know what he still has left in the tank. I mean, it's Frank Clark. And Quentin and I, we saw him at camp. This guy, like you said, was paper thin, shredded, ready to go. And he did it this offseason. So it doesn't surprise me with everything we've seen so far.
It's just insane to me that they've been saying cut him for 4 years. For 4 years, they've been saying cut him. The man doesn't deserve that kind of ridicule. What's up, Chiefs Live? He just doesn't deserve it. And for people to go out there and say the things that they said about him is a little frustrating to me. I don't know about you guys, but it's been frustrating to me because I think with what he's had to deal with and not just with his health, but personal reasons as well. He's played fairly well. I mean, actually, really well, and he's always he's an unsung hero because people don't realize how much he actually does, simply because he doesn't have 15 sacks a year. You don't have to have 15 sacks a year to be great. That simple. So, and we knew this going into this with Spags, that this style of defense is not really set up for a guy. Chris Jones was an anomaly this year. He, he did something that really weren't expecting, and I give a lot of that credit to Joe Cullen, but the defense is really not designed for two guys to have 15, 16, 20 sacks. It's designed for 4 or 5 guys to have 5 to 7 sacks. It's really what it is. I mean, they just have to, people just have to, I guess the greediness and the just, I don't even know what it is at this point.
Well, what I've seen, and you guys may or may not agree with me with this, whenever the Chiefs ends up trading for a player and they don't work out immediately, the expectation is so high that people get very frustrated. And I'm more of a guy, okay, let's see kind of how things can go over time. You can't put all your eggs in one basket, all your marbles in the same bowl. You kind of have to let things work out. Yeah, did Frank Clark struggle a little bit throughout these seasons? Yes. But I felt like in the last 2 seasons, specifically Super Bowl runs, when it really counted, when he was feeling healthy, he helped benefit the entire team. I mean, he was getting sacks left and right. He was having things where he was setting the edge on the run. I mean, he was playing really well and being a quote-unquote leader on the defense next to Tyrann Mathieu, even this year next to a Chris Jones. So I would say maybe he's not rolling in all these stat factors that are all great, like the stacks and like the tackles for loss, but being that leader to like a George Karlaftis or helping a Trick McDuffie, things like that, making sure he's spreading the knowledge and wisdom, because that's just as important than getting all those sacks. Because you need that can go in good organizations. That's one thing that they've been able to do really well.
Yeah,
I mean,
I would say
he
that.
keeps that side of the field shut down. I mean, that's what he pushes everybody to the other side of the field, and that's what I think people don't realize is that he may not have all the sacks, but he controls that side of the field. And when you can do that, and you can push people to the middle or the opposite side of the field and allow somebody else to get sacks because they can't get out of the backfield, you're doing your job. I mean, pretty simple.
I think that the reason that he sort of grew to be, put into the list of not a fan favorite when he got here is I think it has more to do with the contract he signed and then the following year production where he just sort of fell off a cliff, right? I think when he got here, there was this expectation that he was supposed to be the next guy, that next great Chiefs pass rusher, and he never really developed into that. And you could talk about whether or not it's fair that Chiefs fans sort of put that expectation on, but when you spend that much draft capital to get a guy here and then you sign him to that huge contract that you did, there's an expectation that you're going to, be one of the top guys in the NFL at your position. And I think he fell short of that. And so I think when we talk about some of the animosity between fans, Chiefs fans, and Frank Clark, especially the last 2 seasons, I think it comes from just simply being on that contract and not seeing the full production of it coming from some of those statistics. Caleb did bring up a good point, though, is that he does do a lot with George Karlaftis, and we talked about that earlier in the week, JP.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. If you look at, during that time frame, if you looked at the market for edge rushers, that was the going rate. He was one of the top 5 edge rushers in the league at the time. So, you got guys out there that are being paid just as much that don't do as much as he does. Yeah, they may have a few extra sacks, but that doesn't mean anything if they're not getting in the backfield, if they're not pushing the pile, if they're not making havoc, creating havoc. And that's what he does. And I think that's where Chiefs fans act like they're actually writing the check. They're not. But if you're not writing the check, don't complain. If you're actually writing that check and you got to pay the guy $105 million, okay, then you got to, maybe you can complain a little bit. But it was the going rate. It's what people were being paid at the time. And he was a top 5 edge rusher when we signed him.
I mean, when you look at everything, markets for players go up and down, up and down. At one point, running backs were high. Now it's like use running back up for 4 or 5 years, then get on, move to another one. Or wide receivers, they see markets get reset all the time. It's just going to happen. Like you said, if you're not cutting the check, there's nothing really can do besides complain and scream on the sidelines. Brett Veach and Andy Reid and all those guys are going to be the ones that at the end of the day are going to say, Either we're moving on or we're keeping him. And it's so far, I would say it's worked out. In the 4 years he's been here, 2 Super Bowls. Yeah, he had some struggling stretches, but he has done pretty well, I would say, compared to what the things he's gone through and things we see with other players as a whole. So I am happy with his production.
Absolutely. I mean, you
It's
really
much
can't.
easier
He's still
to-
one of the fastest guys off the ball, in my opinion.
Much easier to be happy with a player's production when you have 2 Super Bowl rings out of it. I'll say that. So
And he's one of the contributing factors in every playoff game that we've had.
especially that first one. I think that, when we look back at that first Super Bowl run, I just hope we don't forget that. I think Frank Clark's work, what he did in that first Super Bowl specifically, might end up being one of those things where people forget about it, and then you're going back and you're watching the highlight video of the playoff run, and you're going to see some of the stuff that Frank Clark did, and you're going to be like, damn, he was an impressive player. I mean, he was one of the reasons why we shut down Derrick Henry in the championship game in the first Super Bowl run.
I still watch those highlights to this day, and to see his 5 sacks in 3 games was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, he literally, especially the first game, Texas, he got 2 sacks. Against the Titans, he had 1. Against the 49ers, he had 2. I mean, he was out there going like a prime DT, it seemed like a little bit. I mean, has he come down a little bit? Yeah, but I would say I'd rather have what he's done, especially in the Super Bowl runs, to nothing. So
Yeah. And as we've talked about on prior shows, we talked about it on Tuesday. I would much rather have Frank Clark on the edge than a rookie. Sorry, but I just would. You don't want a 1-year guy on one side and then a rookie on the other when it comes to edge rush or pass rush. You just don't want that. I think he's done a great job. What's Philip? Let's see. Philip said overall, Big Frank is still a good starter who wins with use of his hands, mental processing. Yeah, functional strength versus the run, athletic ability, competitiveness. True. As a pass rusher, he's staying. I agree, Philip. I mean, he's done enough for this team to warrant what he's been paid in other ways besides sacks. And everybody that thinks they understand football, for some reason, believes that's the only stat there is for a defensive lineman. And no matter what position they play on the defensive line, if they don't have enough sacks, they suck. That's not how this game works. I mean, geez. If that was the case, I mean, you could look at corners and go, okay, well, this guy doesn't have 16 interceptions. He sucks. But how many balls has he stopped getting into the end zone? How many times has he stopped a first down? How many times has he deflected a pass? There's so many different aspects that go into every position on the football field. You can't just base it off of one stat. Just can't. Chris Jones, I mean, if everybody remembers, I don't know if they wanted him launched at the beginning of the season. Fire his ass. We don't need Chris Jones. Go find somebody else. Why didn't we sign Aaron Donald? Well, Aaron Donald just took a dive, and Chris Jones just climbed the mountain. Look, man, we have said this before and we'll say it again. Tired of preaching this crap. Chris Jones was on an island by himself for a few years. He had no friggin' help in the middle. If you don't have the help, you're not going to be successful. And when you're getting double and triple teamed because they know you don't have the help, that's where you're going to end up with 4 or 5 sacks a year and not getting in the backfield. This year was a prime example is when you bring in a Carlos Dunlap, you've got even a Saunders and other guys that have been, and Karlaftis, and guys that have been able to step up and contain other players, and they're just not focusing on Chris. Plus, they moved him around a little bit, and they helped with his progression by moving him to the outside, back inside. It throws teams off, but in the same aspect, he has help that he never had prior. And that's huge. And he still did a great job for somebody that had no help. I mean, hell, you could have had Boy Scouts out there for some of the help he had for a couple, 3 years. And he still did a good job. So I don't know, man. It's just very frustrating to me to listen to people bitch and complain. It's starting to remind me of how Philly does to some degree. It's, we love you when you're doing great. And if you have a bad game, you might as well just be gutter trash.
I mean, that's just sports fans,
But you know what, though, man? I hear that then I talk to people in other fan bases. I've talked to coaches, players. They don't have that problem in most other fan bases. Most of them are pretty damn loyal. I mean, when you got a freaking LA Chargers team, I know they only got 4 or 5 fans, but they're more loyal.
Yeah, but those 4 fans are
they've been through it, JP.
Guys, man.
They've been through it.
They've been through it. You know, that's a big problem with Chiefs Kingdom right now. Most of the people have not been through the hell. You got a group of guys that are 18, 19, 20 years old, maybe younger, and they haven't been through the hell years. You know, they could go on YouTube and watch video. That doesn't mean you've been through it.
First down, second down, third down, fourth down, run.
No punt game.
Watching that shit.
No punt game. What else do we have?
I mean, come on.
45 to 35 to 10. 21 drop passes in the game. I mean, it was bad. It was bad.
We'll get to that, Will. We'll get to that, Will.
Yeah. Look, man, when you have to spend that kind of time, I spent 10 years with the Marty Ball, and I love Marty. One of the greatest people I ever knew. But it was hard to watch. It was hard to stand on a field and watch. To watch these guys. You watch J.J. Burden standing 40 yards downfield doing absolutely nothing on 3rd and 18, and Marty's running the ball with Barry Word. You know, it was just hell. So, what we have now, we just won our second of 3 Super Bowls that we've been in 5 years. Actually, 4 years, really. I don't think anybody has any room to complain. And we're in a group chat. I have to bring this up really quick because it's actually comical. Man, some of the stuff that comes out of these guys' mouth, I don't think they've ever watched a football game. I don't think they've seen any of our players actually play the game of football. They talk about Snead. He's not elite. Give me 5 other cornerbacks in the league right now that you can say are absolute elite players that are better than him, and that we should just and then we have the opportunity to go sign.
There's none, and I don't think I'm being biased, but I feel like Snead's the most consistent corner I've seen in a while in the NFL. I mean, yes. Trayvon Diggs was great, but he had 13 receptions. We got burned a lot. Yeah, a lot of these guys do good things. Example. Yeah. What I'm saying is you need consistency.
Tariq Woolen I know he's a rookie, but he was really good this year. Sauce Gardner was another one who was really good this year, also a rookie. I mean, of course, you got to throw Jalen Ramsey into this conversation because even though he's had a down year, I would say that whole team had a down year, and even he's still one of the best corners in the league right now.
But my point is that you're not going to be able to get any of those guys.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be able to go into a draft and find somebody Snead is extremely intelligent. He's one of the best corner blitzers I've ever seen. The guy just is amazing when it comes to corner blitzing. He understands. He's very and another thing. I'm going to go on a tangent here really quick. I can almost count on both hands how many penalties he's had since he's been with the Chiefs. You can't say that about every other friggin' corner in this league and still be as consistent as he is. You can't complain about somebody that just helped you win a Super Bowl. It's just stupid. I'm sorry, but it is. The greed has gotten ridiculous. We've talked about this. We're in a golden era. We have the absolute best team in football right now. And people call, I was on a live show that we're going to be doing for another group, or with another group, I should say, every Wednesday night. But the guy said, well, it's crazy that Mahomes put up these numbers with all these chumps. And I said, chumps? He goes, well, you guys don't have any big name wide receivers. I said, well, you got Juju, you got MVS. Both of those guys are really experienced. And then we got rookies on the team that have played really lights out, and you got Travis Kelce, which is a very large wide receiver / tight end, or the other way around, vice versa. But You don't have to have a big name to be a great player. You have to be a great player to get a big name. That's just how this works. Simple. We're not the frickin' farm team for the rest of the NFL. We've won 2 friggin' Super Bowls in 4 years. Come on, man. I mean, it's annoying. But anyway, we get off that soapbox because it pissed me off earlier. I saw a bunch of crap in a group chat and it made me mad. But anyway,
well, let's keep the upsetting JP train going, because there was a poll that was released by the NFLPA.
Oh my God!
And okay, yeah. it was sent out. It was a
here we go
that was sent out to 1,300 players throughout the league, and it was to grade and give their opinions on all sorts of different things, from the weight room, the nutrition, training staff, locker room, all that fun stuff, quality of travel. So there was a bunch of people that took the survey. The NFLPA said they sent it out to 1,300 players, current players, and which accounts out to about 40 players per team. So almost everybody on each team responded to this. They don't say, it's anonymous, so they don't say who said what, which if you want a true opinion, that's the best way to do it. Now, a lot of the stuff that's on here, I think you could just blame on the fact that Arrowhead is older. So some of the lower grades they get in terms of the facility, it's just their facility is older. And if you look at what like Alabama has, and their, some of these top Power 5 conference teams have better facilities than most of
they make more money.
Yeah. I mean, they just have better facilities than the NFL in general, and you can debate whether that is, but I'm not going to rip the fact that the Chiefs graded low in terms of their locker room being too small for some of these guys, or those sort of things. I'm not going to lose my mind over. The one thing that I did that really caught my eye was that the training staff for Kansas City was given a grade of D-, which was last in the NFL. And on the NFLPA's website, you can go read all this stuff if you guys want to. The one that really stuck out was, like I said, the training staff, and this was sort of the blurb that the NFLPA summed up everything. It said, respondents to the survey called for things like a, quote, more welcoming environment. With the lowest rating and concerning qualitative responses, we learned that players' key concerns are with trainer Rick Burkholder, not the rest of the training staff, which is generally well-liked. Players' respondents expressed belief and opinions that they feel discouraged from reporting their injuries. They do not feel they get the level of personal care they should, and they fear retaliation for retribution for speaking up for better care. That to me is concerning. It doesn't make sense. Oh yeah, you can throw that up there. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, put that up, man.
That was the overall grade for those who are actually watching the live stream. If you're listening to this via podcast, I'll just give it out to you. So treatment of facility or families was a B, food service nutrition D+, weight room C+, strength coaches A-. Most teams got a very good grade on strength coaches, which kind of makes sense. Training room D+, training staff D-, locker room D-, and team travel F. So a lot of those are ranked towards the bottom half of the NFL. In fact, the only one that is within the top half is the treatment of families. So the training staff one is what confuses me.
I will say this, and I'm going to say this this is not biased. This is being truthful. I think it's crap. Okay, first of all, if you look at the amount of players that were on our team in 2022 that played for a different team prior to 2022, it's very minimal. If they're basing it off of a college locker room or college, whatever the case may be, then that's just stupid, because college and the NFL are totally different. Now, Burkholder has been around for a very long time. He's got one of the best reputations as far as how he runs his training staff. So I don't know how anyone can actually come up with these. I don't know how they came up with these grades from players that didn't actually play for the majority of these players didn't play for another NFL team prior to being with the Chiefs. That's the first thing I have to bring up. One of the things, and I'm trying to get this downloaded on here now, one of the things that were brought up was the size of the locker room. And the locker room is outdated. It's absolutely not true because they just redid the locker room and they made it wider and it's beautiful. We all seen the video of it. It's an absolutely unbelievable locker room. They actually expanded it a little bit because there was a back room back there. I've been in it many times. They made it wider. They left the equipment room where it was. I'm having a really hard time believing that the Washington Commanders beat us in any realm of anything. The Chicago Bears beat us in any realm of anything.
That's a good point. That is.
The
that
Green
is.
Bay Packers, come on, man. I mean, look, when you got fans falling off of a bleacher because the rust has fallen through, you think their locker's any nicer? Oh, hell no. And when you got players that are falling in gopher holes in Chicago, you think their locker room's beautiful? Guarantee it ain't. You think their food's any better? Oh, hell no. I think these guys are basing it off of, if there was any college guys or rookies that are basing this off of anything, they're basing it off of whatever college that they went to prior.
And not all colleges are that high tier, and the Chiefs really don't be taking Alabama or Ohio State or a Michigan guy. I mean, they're really pulling from like the low D, not the low, but they're going for those guys from those other schools who don't get as much recognition. And I agree with you, JB. It's kind of weird. Rick Bookholder has done a very good job training wise. So unless there's some stories we've never heard that have now come to light, I'm just kind of astonished. Arrowhead is a pretty good facility, and you would think, how do the Chargers are better than us? I mean, they have ACL injuries left and right and torn Achilles, and the Chiefs never have that. So I'm very confused. I'm just very confused.
Here's one of the things that also confused me in terms of like the locker room. When they were grading the locker room, right? The Chiefs ranked lower, but one of the teams that also ranked lower in terms of just their overall grade was also the Chargers and the Rams. So I think that's why I'm not taking a lot of like. I'm not taking a whole lot in terms of the actual A+, A- or whatever. I care more about the blurbs that they had to say because that's what players had to say. The A+ is going to be a little bit finicky because basically what they did is they told players, hey, rank 1 through 5 how you feel about this. Well, anybody who's ever tried to either, send a poll out, send a survey out, that's not going to be a very accurate sort of representation of everything. And in fact, the NFLPA and the blurb here talking about what they did, they talked about how this isn't necessarily a scientific study. So I'm not taking anything from the A+ to F- out of this. I'd care more about the blurbs. And some of the blurbs, like they talk about how the cafeteria isn't big enough. Once again, it's an old stadium and rosters are bigger now than they were when that facility was first built. So stuff like that, it's not a whole lot you can do about it, and that doesn't bother me. The one that really does bother me is the training staff one. That's really the only one that I saw, and it really opened my eye. The rest of it, I don't really seem to care about.
Yeah, that's a little frustrating because you guys know my relationship with the training staff and some of the medical staff, and I know what they do for this team. I mean, look, man, when you've got a guy like Andy Reid that pulls a guy off the field for a tweak in an ankle and then puts him through all the work that he puts him through, keeps him out for a couple of weeks to make sure he's healthy. The training staff is constantly working on them. I'm having a really hard time with the belief that these players are basing this off of anything other than maybe college. Because think about how many players on our team right now that played for another team in 2021.
Theoretically, it's like a fourth of them are from the college roster. So
I mean, or they've been sitting on a practice squad. So if they're if it's guys that are mad because they didn't get enough play time, or guys that are mad because they got hurt and they got outplayed by a certain running back, like Pacheco, that stepped in as a rookie and outplayed Clyde, that outplayed Rojo. Rojo, you came from Green Bay. Don't tell me that facility is any better, because I guarantee it's not. I mean, unless Aaron Rodgers paid for it, because the fans aren't paying for it, and that's who owns that team. So, I don't know, man.
And I'm going to say this too. I've got two more things to say about this, and then we can move on. One is the fact that Hunt doesn't own that facility either, so he can't just spend money there either. It's the Truman State Complex, and it's owned by the county. So he can't just, do stuff with it. So there's that. And then the other thing that I just wanted to bring up was that the way the study, when they were talking about it, they did only say that you were only supposed to talk about it from comparing your 2022 employee. You weren't supposed to compare different franchises. So for guys that have been on multiple rosters, but I guess in terms that would be hard to remove that bias from you, just because if you have played on two different teams and you're like, man, well, when I was in whatever team, when I was with Miami, we had a pretty sweet locker room, so it's hard. I guess it would be hard to remove that bias, but it did say in the study that when they asked them to rank or give their opinion on stuff, that they weren't supposed to compare it to other franchises, that they were simply just supposed to give their opinion on what they feel about the facilities right now.
Well, to me, that makes zero sense either, because, look, man, what are you going to compare it to?
You're just supposed to say how you feel about certain stuff. It's not supposed to be a comparison with the rest of the league. You're just supposed to say, hey, this is the problems I have with it. This is how I feel about it. Send your survey in. That was the whole point of this.
And this is for free agency, correct?
Yeah, the NFLPA, they put it out when let me see if I can find their blurb right here.
Because if I was a free agent, I mean, I would look at that, but I would like to go see for myself what's going on.
I think the two Lombardis and Patrick Mahomes in that locker room mean more than this survey. But here's the blurb. During the last 2 years, the Board of Representation has discussed ways to improve the information available to free agents making decisions about their prospective clubs, and decided to pursue the development of, quote, club report cards that, while not a scientific survey, would report a quantitative and qualitative opinion of the NFL about their respective clubs. Could you put a period in there somewhere? That is a sentence, man. So,
then that tells me right there that there is some bias-ass crap going on. Look, man, if that's what they're doing over the last 2 years, and they want to slam the Chiefs, and they want to put teams like Washington and Chicago and all these other crap teams in the mix, and then you're going to take into consideration the stadiums that are brand new, like Allegiant, or even some of the teams that are or the stadiums that are only 10 years old, 15 years old. To me, it's a biased. It's almost like they're just trying to stick it to the Chiefs.
But this isn't the NFLPA doing it. This is the players in the facility giving their grades. So it's
I understand, but who came up with the idea to make this report card?
Well, I think the report card's a good idea, because I learned that the Cardinals make their players pay for food at the cafeteria.
We're going to get to that in a minute, Will.
Oh, what? They make them pay for their food?
Yeah.
Players, that should be automatically free. That's ridiculous. No wonder why they can't.
What team does?
The Cardinals.
Oh yeah, the Cardinals do. Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me, but that's ridiculous.
No, the Chiefs pay for. So these sort of things that come out is interesting to hear, and obviously if the NFLPA / fan base can guilt trip the Arizona Cardinals in spending money to not force their players to pay for food in their facility, that would be great. So I don't have a problem with this in general. Just the thing that's weird to me is just that blurb about the Chiefs training staff, because
I'm having a hard time with that one.
That contradicts everything that I know up to this very point, and I'm having just a hard time trying to compartmentalize that, and it just doesn't make any sense to me.
No, and I could tell you, Rick is not a bad guy in any way. I've never heard anybody say anything negative about him. I know people on that medical staff and training staff, and I can tell you now, I would have heard it, especially from the people that I know, and you guys know who they are. I promise you I would have heard that. And I have never heard a negative thing about him. Never. And these are people that work for him. I mean, these are people that are actually on the medical and training staff. So, I don't know. I'm having a hard time with it, but whatever. We can move on from that. I'm already frustrated, so we can move on from that. That just irritates the shit out of me. So, anyway, Will just brought up something interesting. Let's talk about. Let's go to this Phillip thing really quick. Let's do this. Day one combine winners: Brian Brees, Clemson. Yep. Dexter, Florida. Correct. I agree. Yes, Cansey, unbelievable. Nolan Smith, unbelievable.
If only somebody wrote an article about one of those players.
I wonder who did it.
And that's so funny because that's exactly why I asked, because I couldn't remember his name for a minute. And I asked so you guys could put that in your little, the thing that we're doing or you're doing right now for everybody.
Got another player, so everybody stick around to the end. I've got another player.
Perfect.
Yeah. I cannot pronounce that dude's name. I know it's a day. I don't know what I can't pronounce his last name. He's from Northwestern. Owen Popo, he's actually good. He's from Auburn.
Mm-hmm. Looking at his film today, he's actually pretty good. Looking at a little bit earlier.
Yeah, and Brian Young's pretty good too, or Byron Young. He's pretty good too from Tennessee. I agree, Philip. They're pretty damn good. Nolan Smith, unbelievable. Unbelievable. I didn't know about him until somebody brought him up, and I don't want to toot his horn any more than I already have, but somebody brought him up to me, and I thought, wow, man, this dude, and I looked at his highlight film and went, whoa, I mean, this dude's a beast. So,
and we'll also be kind of covering all the different players in the production, so we have some things. So if you guys look at our Twitter page right now, I think first tweet, or one of the first couple tweets, you're going to see kind of the projection. There's a formula our draft team put together, and our prediction, he's about a mid first round pick, mid first round pick. So we'll be doing those all for different players and things, just so you guys can have an understanding of what we think our thought process is coming from. Is he from Ruskin? I think he went to Ruskin High School. I think I read something about he went from Ruskin. That's down off of Bannister, South Kansas City.
Yeah,
I think that is.
I mean, he's from Kansas City. That's pretty cool. Okay, so Will, let's get into your thing really quick, because I don't want to leave you out here. What are you guys' thoughts on the Chiefs players, sir? Oh, we already did that one. Let's do this next one you put out. This is, to me, is actually funny, and I think what's going to end up happening is A.J. Brown is going to get himself in some trouble. And I think at some degree, even though he's got the fat contract, the things that he's saying is going to get him in trouble with the Eagles. He's really pushing the limit. I'm sorry, but the Juju skit was hilarious. I cried a little.
Oh, 100% it was. That was very, very funny what he did.
He had his mom in there, bro. I mean, he had his mom in there. That's funny. I don't care.
And Coach 40 from TikTok.
Man.
So it was perfect.
That was great. I mean, I don't care who you are. That was funny. And this A.J. Brown just has no sense of humor. Apparently, he's still upset because he didn't like the Valentine's Day card. I don't know what I don't know what his situation is. Maybe he's mad because he got ousted by us and other people that basically said, yeah, Veach said, hey man, what's he worth or what's he asking for? Okay, bye. We really didn't make him an offer. We didn't really care to. There was nothing behind that whole thing other than him trying to make himself look better and make himself feel better about his ignorance. But I think the Juju skit was fantastic, and I think A.J. Brown is going to feel the he said that part with his mama had me screaming. He said, Philip's right. Winners find a way to win. Losers find a way to lose. this is not the only thing he's doing right now. I mean, Philip he actually brought it up to me too. He said something else stupid. I mean, more than one thing.
At some point, you just gotta let stuff be, move on, and start training to beat him. I mean, yeah, maybe Juju's pushed the envelope a little bit too much. It's like, AJ, come on, just let it be, move on.
Here's the thing.
I mean, go ahead.
I just feel like that, you know how the internet works, and the more and more you like respond and come back to it, then just the more it's going to repeat, and the more people are going to, try and piss you off about it. So if it bothers you, responding is only going to make it worse. So just block your Twitter notifications for 48 hours and then move on with your life. So that's sort of the way I feel. Yeah, I just feel like that, when you win, you're allowed to talk as much trash as you can. And then when you lose again, everybody else is allowed.
You're free game.
Yeah. So that's just the way that it works. If you gotta lay in the bed that you made. And that's what Juju Smith-Schuster's doing right now. I thought the Valentine's Day thing was really funny. So, but
the skit was great. Did you watch the skit, Quentin?
This is the way it is now. I mean, it's with the social media world, it's so much easier to do this. You couldn't do this 10 years ago. So this is just the way that the world is now. And if you're a professional athlete, you have to be ready and prepare yourself to deal with it. And I think the best way to deal with it, if you're AJ Brown, is to just let it go. Because he's that responding is just going to make it worse.
Yeah, and see, that's another thing, too. Philip's right. The fact that he's posting it via his DMs for world to see is just bonkers. AJ Brown's starting to act like Antonio, and he is.
Okay, here's the thing. Here's what I don't understand, okay? You sent it via DM, okay? Because you wanted it. The reason you direct message somebody is so that it's a private conversation. Then you screenshot it and post it. Bro, just send it over the Twitter. Just send it
Might as well. Might as well.
Hey, Caleb, you remember when that happened to me once?
I know. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Why'd you DM it?
Makes no sense.
And then, just you looked at that. Because if you did that took more thought. Because at least if you sent it, you could just say that, oh, man, I was just angry. I did it without thinking. Screenshotting it, opening up a new spot, putting it in there, and then tweeting it out, that takes more time. And when you were doing that, you were like, this is a great idea. Okay?
Well, here, Quentin, I'll give you an example of something. So, I don't know, a couple of years ago, I called out a player, don't remember who it was, that we were signing. And a certain individual that's been on Twitter since 2009 that no one really likes. He had a smart aleck remark on Twitter. I mean, he did it on the public side. So I responded back. I was in a mood that day, and I responded back. And I guess he was trying to compare me with some of these guys that, were fake insiders and all this other stuff that was going on Twitter at the time. I was actually right about the player that I called out, but anyway, he got smart and said a couple of things. And then, so I DM'd him because he followed me. I followed him. I thought everything was okay. And I said, what the hell's going on with you, man? I said, you got a problem? He started, he says, I was just joking and said something else. And I said, well, it didn't seem like a joke. He kept going on and on and on about it. I said, if you have an issue with that, I'm going to be in Kansas City because I have to do a Sunday night game. I said, we can meet up and talk about it. This isn't a DM. He took the entire conversation of a DM, posted it on Twitter, and then told everybody I threatened to kick his ass. This is a guy on Twitter that pretty much everybody can't. I mean, I don't think there's anybody that likes him. They follow, the few people that do follow him to troll him. He's been on Twitter since 2009, and he's got 3,800 followers. And, 14 years. But that's the kind of person to me, and what everybody else has said to me, especially a lot of the followers that we have, is that really shows the lack of character that somebody has, and also the fact that they must be really scared to post something like that or to DM it and then post it on Twitter. They have a complex because they're either in fear that you're going to make them look really stupid, which you already did, or they want to try to make you look dumb, and in retrospect, all it does is make them look worse. Go ahead, Caleb?
Oh, I was gonna say I kind of agree. I agree with you there. I mean, at this point, it's just like AJ, just move on, let it be. I mean, like Quentin said, we're in the social media realm. People are gonna say stuff. People are gonna get roasted. Memes are gonna be created, and unfortunately, AJ keeps bringing it up. I honestly forgot about it until I saw the video today. I honestly forgot about it, but it keeps being rehashed and rehashed and rehashed. At the end of the day, is this either the Chiefs are gonna kind of tell Juju to kind of quit it out, or the Eagles are going to tell AJ Brown to cut it out. It's going to kind of be a thing like that.
Well, here
I don't see what else is going to happen besides just going to keep going to escalate even more. And especially the Chiefs are going to play the Eagles, which won't happen probably for another 4 years. We'll see the way the divisions rotate. Well, actually won't for a couple more years where things rotate. It's just going to be going back and forth for a couple years.
Because
no, we played against them last year.
But they added the extra game, and the extra game like splits that in half. Because you get the you get the top seed from that NFC. So we face the Eagles today. This upcoming season, and I believe it's a home game.
Well, here you go. Okay. This is another thing that he's doing too. Is he publicly said things, pretty derogatory things, but one of the things he said about the Eagles themselves is you can either pay Jalen or just trade him. Now, who are you to say that? Who are you to come out and say that about your organization that just signed you to a fat, giant contract? Dude, you're just stepping on your own tongue with a dirty shoe that has poop on it. So you might want to stop, roll your tongue back in your mouth, and stop acting like you're AB. Stop acting like you're Ocho Cinco, because you're neither one of them. You may be a little AB mentally. You just need to let it go, because now you're starting to look really bad.
Yeah, take a book out of Elsa's book page. Damn it. Take a page out of Elsa's book and let it go. Wow, exactly. Really messed that one up.
Yeah, that was.
Let it go. Let it go. I mean, basically, that's what you have to do at this point.
You do. I mean, it's just time to just say, you know what? I mean, it's just time to just be done with it. I mean, look, Juju's going to do what he wants to do. He's got the right. That was comical. I don't think he made it up. Those guys make videos like that all the time, and they're hilarious. They saw the interaction on Twitter. They said, heck, let's make a video of it. And they asked him to do it, and he did it. And he said, hey, Mom, you want to be in this video? Sure, okay. So it is what it is. It's not like Juju has a production company and said, hey, man, let's make this video. That's not what happened. So they're making fun of AJ on his... They're doing it because he's doing it to himself.
Yeah, the more he gets mad, the more it makes him like, yeah, let's make something else. It's like a sibling whenever you're having an argument and they keep doing something to make you mad. Like they say, I'm not touching you. That's basically what they're doing. He's saying, stop touching me. They're like, I'm not touching you. It's making them more madder and madder and madder to where it's just going to blow up more and more and more. Yeah. Just let it be. Let it go. That's all you can do at this point.
Philip said Von Miller roasted Cam Newton on SNL and he never made threats like this. And he didn't. And you know what? One of the threats that A.J. Brown made was something to the effect of, basically, I'm going to kick your ass and you should know how I roll. Come on, man.
Yeah, it's sad to see. But it'll be interesting to see the rest of how everything this offseason goes with all that.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch. But what else we got, Quentin? I know you had a couple things you wanted to go over.
Well, I've got that guy I wanted to talk about, but I think that's pretty much it in terms of like the news that's going on around the Chiefs.
What guy you want to talk about?
The draft. My newest draft summary. Okay. Well, I wanted to be the last thing.
All right. Go ahead. Take it away.
I started to think about this because of a conversation that started up earlier in the week about the Chiefs. Should they think about trading L'Jarius Sneed? And it got me thinking about, the Chiefs, no matter what they do about Sneed, whether they let him play on his final year of his contract or whatever, the Chiefs are going to have to draft a safety. Because I do not think Juan Thornhill is going to be back. So you need to be able to find somebody to take Brian Cook's spot because Cook, in theory at least, should be elevated to take over that Thornhill spot. So I started looking around just to look at some draft picks that I think the Chiefs, would be able to get. So I don't think that the Chiefs are going to be able to get that guy from Alabama, Branch, or the guy from Texas A&M, Johnson, I think is his last name. So I was just looking around for guys that I think might end up sliding in the draft, and I came across this guy from Boise State, J.L. Skinner. Okay, I don't know if you guys have heard of him or not.
I have not.
Sidebar: Boise State's football field is vomit. It's disgusting.
What? Quinn, I have to disagree. I love Boise State's football field.
You like those ugly ass blue? It's horrible.
Kellen Moore, my early childhood watching them play, dominating teams like Oregon, should have made the BSS. Man, no, that's you. That's you right now.
Isn't their field blue?
It's blue.
Yeah, it's all blue.
That's right, because I remember every time somebody ended up getting up, they looked like a damn Smurf. And I couldn't figure out how that happened. I remember that now. Yeah.
And they wear blue too, so it's like they sort of blend in with the field. It's horrible. It's god awful.
Hey, there's another school that does that, and it's a red field and red clothes, and you have not said anything. So leave Boise State alone.
It's also
leave
awful.
Leave Boise State alone.
No, Boise State field, garbage. Okay, so I wanted to start off there. Didn't realize this would be a controversial opinion.
Kellen Moore is one of the best Power 5 one of the best quarterbacks I have seen come out of that college and has done wonders. Titus Young, Austin Pettis, Doug Martin, one of the best offenses you ever see. Many different players. Hook and ladder against Oklahoma with Adrian Peterson was there. Look it up, Quentin. You know they're a good team. Don't be a hater.
And apparently Philip too. Now I gotta, the best part about living in the United States is the fact that you're allowed and you have the freedom to have the worst opinion ever, and the fact you believe that Boise State has a good field.
Well,
okay, that shit's bad. It's awful.
Well,
we gotta take a poll. It
is what it is.
We're gonna take a poll on Twitter about that one.
Okay, so you know what? How about tomorrow when my article comes out, JP? When you put the article out, put a poll out about Boise State's, and we'll let the Twitter sphere determine how bad the Boise State field is. Okay,
you got it.
Anyways, so J.L. Skinner from Boise State is a safety that I don't think he's going to get picked in the first round for a couple of reasons. One, I just think that this is, like we've talked about, there's a lot of defensive backs in this class, corners specifically. So if you're looking for that sort of skill set that he has, you're going to go with other guys before him. So he'll probably go in the second round, maybe the third round. Still an earlier pick, which is good because I think that's how Kansas City can end up with him. So I was looking over some of his stuff. He's a bigger guy. He's like 6'4", 220 pounds, 230 pounds, which is a big guy to play safety. And when I was looking at the Chiefs roster, the tallest guy that we have playing safety right now is Justin Reed, and he's 6'1" and barely over 200 pounds. So this would be the biggest guy in the safety room if the Chiefs are able to get their hands on him. He has some good hands. He ended the season with 4 interceptions, and he has over a dozen pass breakups, and he spent a lot of time playing down in the slot, kind of like what Snead does. And I think and in my article I talk about this, is that I think something that people don't know or just don't bring this up as often as I feel like we should is that when Snead played in college, he was not a full-time safety. He actually played corner for the majority of his collegiate time, and then the final year he switched to corner. And while Skinner has played safety his entire time, he plays a lot of it down in the box, and he's covered the slot receiver and tight ends quite a bit in college. And so I think that skill set is valuable to Kansas City because, it allows that versatility. We know how much Kansas City, both on the offense and defensive side of the ball, love guys that can do multiple things, and Skinner is that guy. He can play in coverage. He can play deep zone. And on top of that, he can hit, and he can hit hard. There's a lot of plays with him coming down, and guys will go up for the ball, and he's not afraid to lay the wood and get some guys to drop the ball. So
he said wood. Go ahead.
I think Skinner is going to be a good pick if you're able to snag him up in the late second, early third round. I imagine that's where he's going to go. I think his size is great, and I think he could be, if the Chiefs don't end up picking up Snead's contract within the next year or so, I think J.L. Skinner could end up moving up into that Snead role because he is so versatile. And one of the things that Brett Veach does, and you can see this sort of the way he drafts, is he's planning about a year ahead. He's drafting for about a year ahead. I think this is the guy that could be that I'm a year ahead type of a draft pick.
I like that. I like that draft pick. Boise State. But what we see is just another versatile guy. And like you said, when you draft a year ahead, it helps fix potential issues that could come by later down the line. Because you don't know what a team could offer Snead. He may get some type of crazy deal. I mean, you never know at the end of the day. But that's a really good player to look at when I'll be looking at this film. Thank you for bringing that up. Thank you.
Okay, Quentin, you brought him up on Tuesday. Yeah. Sunday or Tuesday. I can't remember what day you brought him up. I don't know what they're going to do about Wiley yet.
Are you talking about DeJuan Jones?
The kid.
Yeah.
Okay, I went and watched his film.
Isn't he amazing?
I don't know how he doesn't. Look, what I don't get, if he jumped off of a cliff, he could just float to the ground. The guy's got a wingspan of a Learjet. The dude is huge. And he's fast. He's agile. For somebody that size to be so agile. And again, there was a play I watched, and I don't know if it was the same one you were talking about or not, but he stuck his arms out. He had basically 3 guys wrapped up in his arms. And it was for a good 3 or 4 seconds. He's holding these guys, and he didn't grab anybody. It's Andrew White out like this. But his arms were out, and these dudes couldn't budge. And his body was leaned at almost like a 45. And these poor guys, they look like little kids trying to get past Shaq. It was one of I hope and pray somehow we end up with this kid.
Yeah. It's I think he's a really good, and the fact that he played right tackle, I think is going to have people, he's going to fall down draft boards because, you want guys that played left tackle, in order to come into the league. That just is, it's one of those things where a lot of colleges will put guys who their best offensive linemen will play left tackle. And, at Ohio, well, they had such a good offensive line that he ended up playing right tackle, and he was just so good at, he put a lot of good film on during the Senior Bowl. That was one of the places that I watched him. The fact that even when he loses, he can stretch his arm out and he can sort of, keep a guy from getting past him, even though he would technically lose the rep, he can still slow him down. I think he's going to be one of those guys that whoever takes him is going to get their future franchise right tackle. And he may even be able to move over to left tackle. I'm not so sure. He did play some left tackle, but when the majority of your snaps are on one side of the line, generally speaking, you want to keep him there.
Yeah.
And he was from Ohio State or Ohio?
Ohio.
Okay.
Ohio State.
Nice.
No, it was Ohio State. It was Ohio State.
Okay, because I'll just say they had they sounds very similar. They had a really, really good, I think it was a right tackle there about 15 years ago who almost won the Heisman. So they have done some good job producing some good right tackles there.
Philip has been on both of us have been on that Jordan Battle bandwagon.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where he's going to fall in the draft. He seems like he's going to be one of those guys that. Sorry, I don't know why this guy.
They've got both of their safeties are coming out. Branch and their.
Sorry, I don't know.
Who's the Branch and Battle? Both of them are coming out. So I think that, like I said, the reason I have Skinner is just because I think that there's a chance he slides. And when I'm looking at this, it would be easy for me to just look at all of the best players at these positions and say, go get this guy. But I'm trying to think of guys that may end up slide. They have something that teams might overlook, or, maybe they just aren't a scheme fit for those guys, or the fact that the defensive back class is just so deep that inevitably guys like this are going to slip. So the Chiefs are going to be able to pick up a good safety in the second or third round, and he might end up becoming, that box safety, that third safety. We know that in the NFL right now, the trend is to continue to play more dime and to bring out more defensive backs because teams are running the ball less and passing the ball more. So to bring in that extra guy instead of using a extra linebacker. So I do think that in the third round, you're going to see Chiefs, second or third round, the Chiefs are going to pick a safety. I can't tell you who it is, but I think that's just the way the Chiefs may end up going because I think that's the way the board's going to fall.
It might. I mean, I see them going after some defensive line guys. I see them actually going after some offensive line. I don't think they're going to go nuts on offensive line, but they're going to grab some. Look, man, they got a lot of
He'll at least gets one. Beach has always allowed at least one. Just kind of help with the rotation. Every single year he's been in gym, at least one guy has been brought in and has been rotated in and out.
Exactly. And I think, I agree. I think a safety will come in simply because we don't know what's going to happen with Thornhill. I've heard different things that, he wants to stay, willing to work on some kind of a deal. Don't know how that's going to play out. But I do know that the Chiefs have, I think, 11 picks. So I have this feeling that they're probably going to bundle a few together to make a jump for a certain player that they want. Somebody that they absolutely have to have.
This will be the year to do it. The drafts in Kansas City, go big.
Yeah, go big or go home, and I think that's what they're going to do. And I mean, look, man, I may be wrong, but I got a strange feeling if they're going to jump ahead, it's either going to be for a certain edge rusher or a certain right tackle. That's who I think they'll jump ahead for.
Yeah, I could also see them doing that for a wide receiver if they aren't able to, or they don't end up keeping Juju or McCole Hardman around. So if they see a guy, right, they're not going to jump up. You're not going to see Kansas City jump up in the top 5 or top 15. What will end up happening is if a guy they really like slides and gets to like 21, 24, those sort of things, you jump up about 8 spots, something around that. I think that's when you see Kansas City make a move.
That's what they did last year for McDuffie.
Yeah, you see him just move up a couple of spots so you can jump ahead of some of the teams that have similar needs and guys that who like similar guys as you. The Kansas City McDuffie, they jumped in front of Buffalo last year in order to get because they had a feeling that they were going to go after him. So that's how you end up doing it. And, I mean, that's still a big move, but I think that's the way the Chiefs, if they end up doing it. The Chiefs are going to make multiple moves during draft day for the entire weekend. They're going to move around. They'll flop a 5th for somebody else's 5th, and they'll throw an extra 7th in there. Like, those sort of moves are going to happen.
Don't they have like 4 7ths right now?
They've got 3 7th-round picks, so that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, the packaging 2 of those for a 60s. I'm calling that now.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, I think a lot of it's going to have to. Some of it may depend on where. What's his name lands after that little bit of a trouble he's gotten into. That sounds like it's not really. I mean,
the Georgia defensive lineman.
Yeah. I can't think of his name right now. Philip, what's his name? I know you'll know.
Jalen Carter.
Yeah. I feel like the Chiefs would take him in a heartbeat because he's so versatile and so good. I feel like he's going to get vindicated through all of this.
If he slides far enough toward the Chiefs, he won't. He'll still be picked in the top 10. It's 2 misdemeanor charges. The fact that he already left to go to Athens, Georgia, and was able to do that, and then they allowed him to go back to Indianapolis, shows that it's not that serious of a charge. I mean, he was.
Well, they're calling him a liar. But they're saying that he lied, that he was racing. He's saying he wasn't.
Yeah, but they didn't charge him with lying to police. So it was just a misdemeanor charge. So I mean,
well, so far, yeah, they're trying though, dude. They're trying hard because they found out. In fact, I think I told Philip prior to it even coming out. I heard from somebody that the girl was driving like 107 miles an hour. Her blood alcohol content was 3 times the legal limit, and she had methamphetamines in her system. So I don't know how they could charge him with any kind of a manslaughter thing or involuntary manslaughter or whatever. In fact, he came back to the scene not because he was in trouble or he thought he was in trouble. Came back to make sure she was okay, and he was just driving by, supposedly. I don't know.
Yeah,
But-
it's a very weird situation, and the fact that all of this has come out now, it's really weird. I feel like this should have come out weeks ago because it happened
Exactly.
weeks ago.
The
Yeah.
timing was very weird.
I'm not a lawyer, so this isn't.
Well, and you're not the police either.
Yeah,
so
this
who knows
isn't
what they're
jungle
trying
law
to do.
here. So
Yeah. Well, who knows what the police are trying to do? But regardless, I think he's going to get. I would like to, no, not for any other reason, just out of greed. I would love to see him drop because I know Veach would go after him. I mean, I know he would go after him, and it would be great to see him drop because he's an animal. He's a beast.
yeah, if he ends up dropping, throw every mock draft out of the book. Because
Yeah.
I just don't see that happening, especially if nothing comes from this legal stuff. It's
Yeah.
2 misdemeanor
Well,
charges. So
If anything's going to come out of it, it's going to happen really quick. Yeah, you're right, Philip. If he slides, we got the steal of probably the decade, and we've said that for the last 3 years that we've gotten the steal of the draft, steal of the year, steal of the draft, trade of the draft, or trade of the year. We've done so many different things that has helped us in so many ways. Yeah, exactly. Imagine him with Jones. Oh Lord. Hey, by the way, we talked about this on the last show, Caleb. They, Danny Shelton's sticking with the Chiefs.
Oh, well, then that's perfect. Another rotation piece. That's perfect.
Yeah. So apparently that worked out well for us. At one point he wanted to be traded because he wasn't being brought up to the active roster. Well, now they're going to they've kept him, and it looks like they're going to keep him through at least see how he does in training camp. I think that's a great idea. I wanted him on the field last year, so we apparently didn't need him, but it would have been nice to see him there. Just something to throw out there. I don't know what else we got, man.
We pretty much covered everything.
I think so too. Really quick, we are going to be there's going to be some changes on the show fairly quick. Graphics, different segments, different things going on our show. We're also going to be doing a show on another network through on YouTube. It's a live show every Wednesday night. It's a set time. Check it out. Subscribe to our channel because everything we do on that channel, we're also going to be doing on our channel. So make sure you subscribe. Tell your friends to subscribe. Check out TSS Fantasy because that's who we're going to be on with. They asked us out of everybody in the kingdom that does this type of thing, and they wanted us. And they're a pretty good sized company. So make sure you check it out. Wednesdays at 6. We're still going to be doing our shows every week, Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. During the summer, we do cut down to 2 usually a week. But if there's breaking news, we will definitely do another show to make it 3. So we may start doing Tuesday, Sunday shows, Wednesday with the other one. Just haven't worked it out yet. Just depends on everybody's schedule. But for sure, Tuesday and Wednesday, we're going to be doing shows, and then alternate maybe between Thursday and Sunday. We just haven't figured that out yet. We just have to all sit down and talk about that one. But we are going to set a set time for this show as well. That way everybody knows when to tune in. You can set your clock, set your alarm, do whatever you got to do. So it's all said and done. With that being said, we appreciate everybody joining, and we will talk to you again on Sunday. Peace out, everybody.